Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes.
Hey guys, Amber here with the Maple family, and I am so excited to walk you through the expansion that DeVere Games has put out for Red Cathedral called Contractors. So this game does accommodate up to 4 people, and they also have included some solo content in this expansion. So you are still able to play solo with the Contractor expansion elements. So for this review video, I'm first going to go over all of the components that actually come with the expansion. Then I'm going to take you through how those components actually enhance the base game and some of the rules and setup that will change. At the end of the video, I'm also going to break down the 10 different new guilds that come within the Contractors expansion. So without further ado, let's jump right in. All right, well, thank you for joining me at the table. And here I am just going to quickly go over all the components included in the expansion for Red Cathedral called Contractors. So the very first thing I want to point out is this board that comes with the game. When you are setting up your game, this is going to go next to the market board. And this is actually where the contractor element of the game is going to come into play. Now, when setting up this map, what we're going to do is use these 24 specialist tiles, which also come in the expansion. We're going to be mixing these up and placing them inside of this bag here. We'll randomly draw 5 and we'll place them on their matching icons here on the map board. You're also going to notice here we have 6 of these city tiles that we are going to be using to actually label the different columns of our cathedral site, and I'll show you that in the next phase of the video. Another new element are going to be these permits. Now, these permits are going to be crucial in order for us to pay to send contractors to different cities so that we can acquire these specialty tiles here. This expansion is also going to introduce a new dice. This dice is actually going to be included in our market board setup, and we will treat this dice the same as we do during setup with the other dice from the base game, placing it on the market board. Now, the expansion is also going to come with 4 of these workshop board extensions, and I'll show you how these fit on the original base game boards in just a moment, but you will have 4 of these included in the expansion, 1 for each player color. The game will also include in each player color 6 of these contractor meeples. You can see there is yellow, blue, and red here as well, and there is a place on the workshop board extension to set these meeples up at the beginning of the game. Unlike the base game, these extension boards are single-sided, so you will only be using this side. The expansion is also going to include a new workshop tile that is going to allow us to acquire permits. In addition to that, we're also going to be including the black dye workshop tile as well. And for all of my solo lovers, no worries, you are going to be able to add this solo card to the base game to also play the contractor expansion solo. In addition to the extra solo card, you are going to have a Ivan marker here that is going to come and play just for this expansion, and this marker is going to have your AI moving to different cities for the contractor expansion purposes. Within the expansion, you're also going to find 6 new building plan cards, and you will find that there are 2 new building plan cards for each player count. 2-player, 3-player, and 4-player. I will say though that the majority of this expansion is really built around these guild cards. In the base game, we had 4 different guilds. The expansion is introducing us to 10 new guilds, each guild having a set of 3 that you can choose from. There are a few guilds that actually have resources tied to them, and I will be going over a few of these guilds included so you can get an idea of how they add and change the gameplay of Red Cathedral. So now that we have a general overview of what comes in the expansion with Red Cathedral Contractors, I'm going to go ahead and set up the game so you can see it all together. And we'll talk about some of the different elements of gameplay that change with this expansion. All right, so here we have an idea of what the table presence is going to look like with the addition of the Contractor expansion. Now, I only have 1 player board out just to give you an idea of what that looks like, but I do have this set up up as a 2-player scenario. So for the most part, you're going to set up the game in the same way, but I am going to show you how the contractor expansion changes it just slightly. One of the first things you're going to do is remove the resource tile that grants 1 recognition. You can place that back in the box, and it is going to be replaced by this resource tile here that grants a permit. You're also going to add the specialist die. This is the black die that comes with the expansion. It's just going to be added to the other dice, and you're going to be using the permit as your starting marker for placing die. You'll also remove these 2 workshop tiles from the selection that we use when we're putting them out on the contractor cards. And you'll see here, this is a recognition workshop tile and a ruble workshop tile. Now I've already went ahead and replaced those. They're going to be replaced with a permit workshop tile as well as the black die specialist tile. The next thing we're going to work on setting up is our Moscow board. You're going to want to go ahead and place all of the 24 specialist tiles in the draw bag and draw 5 of them. And you'll go ahead and place them on their designated spaces on the board. The game also comes with 6 of these city tiles. You're going to mix them up and randomly place them face up at the top of each cathedral tower. And you can see I've already done that here. You're then going to take the remaining cities that were not placed at the top of your cathedrals and put them face down on the Moscow board. You can see that these cities now show an X. This means that you cannot send contractors to those cities at any time during the game. So let's quickly take a look at the player setup. Player setup will be as normal. Each player will get their ornamentations, their 6 banners, their starting money based on turn order. In addition to that, you're going to have this extension that slides over top of the original workshop board. You're going to set up your banners slightly different. Typically, we would put the extra banners down below. There's now a space for them up top. Each player is also going to have a space to put all 6 of their contractors. And each player will also start out with 1 permit. Keep in mind that as you place contractors out on the Moscow board, it is going to unlock special abilities that you can utilize during the game. These have to be taken immediately once that contractor is placed on the board. As usual, the iconography is very clear, so you will know what action to do as those different spaces are revealed. One of the things that the contractor's expansion includes is a 4th action, and we can see that here on our board extension. This new action will let us send a contractor to hire specialist workers, which are the tiles we set up on the Moscow board in the beginning of the game. In order to send our contractors, we not only need money, but we also are going to need these permits. Now, using these subcontracted workers has repercussions over the length of the game because every time that we complete one of our cathedral towers, it triggers scoring in that city, and it actually will close off the possibility of hiring more workers there. And of course, these are going to be the cities that we randomly allocated at the top of each tower in the beginning of the game. Now, with this contractor's expansion, we're also going to have a space down here at the extension board showing our black die. This new die is just for the specialist workers. This is also going to be a die that we can pay money to advance additional spaces. So let's say that I have acquired this specialist tile and placed it on my board. When I perform the market action and I move the black die, I can then utilize the effects of this specialist tile. Now, this is slightly different because each specialist tile can only be used once. When you use your specialist tile, you get the bonus shown. After you've used it, you're then going to take it and place it face down next to your board. At the end of the game, you will get prestige points for each group of different tools you have. And you can find the scoring for that on the left-hand side of your extension board. So let's go over the hiring option that the contractor's expansion includes in Red Cathedral. So if you choose to take the hiring action, you're going to move the contractor that is furthest to the left on your board to an available city on the Moscow board. You will need to pay as many permits from your supply as there are contractors in the city that you wish to send your worker. So for instance, if I wish to send my worker to Moscow, I have to pay 2 permits, one for the worker that's there and 1 for the worker I'm adding. Once your contractor has landed in their location, you are able to select one of the 2 specialist tiles adjacent to the city your contractor landed in. Now, Moscow is slightly different because, as you can see, it is connected to all of the specialist tiles. So you have 2 options. You can pay 2 rubles and go ahead and select one of the specialist tiles, placing it face up on your workshop extension board. Now, typically, when we pay to receive one of these tiles, we immediately gain its benefit. But these specialist tiles are different. We're only going to gain the benefit when we activate the black die on the market board. These are also only one-time use. Remember, as soon as we use this benefit, we'll turn it face down, and we may be able to still obtain some endgame scoring depending on how many we accumulate. Now, the other option is you may decide not to pay the 2 rubles and simply discard the new specialist and remove it from the game instead. And hopefully that gives you a good understanding of how this new hiring action works. Now let's head over here and look at our cathedral towers. During setup, we randomly assigned one city to the top of each tower. At any time when a tower reaches completion, we're going to follow some different steps for the contractor expansion. When a tower is complete, we're going to move the matching city tile to the Moscow board, and we're going to place it face down. This will indicate that contractors can no longer be sent there to look for specialists. Now, there are going to be some special scoring elements when a city is closed like this. So basically, each player who has contractors in that city will gain recognition points. And these recognition points are going to be equal to the number of banners of their color in that tower multiplied by the number of contractors they have in this city. Once the scores have been handed out, gameplay will continue as normal. Because the need for permits are so important in the contractors expansion, the designers of the game did allow you an option to lose 1 prestige in order to obtain 1 permit. And just like our other actions here on the player board, this can be done at any time during your turn. And this does have an infinity symbol, meaning that we can do this as many times as we'd like on our turn. Now, hopefully this will give you a great overview of how the elements of the contractor expansion work together, in my opinion, seamlessly with the base game Red Cathedral. A huge part of the Red Cathedral Contractors expansion are the 10 new guilds that come with it. Before I break those down, I quickly want to reference how these are incorporated into the base game. The base game of Red Cathedral actually comes with 4 guilds. When setting up to play the Contractors expansion, you're simply going to remove the Clergy Guild, and you'll replace the Clergy Guild with any of the 10 guilds from this expansion. So without further ado, let's take a look at how these guilds change gameplay. All right, so these are going to be the 10 new guilds that come in the expansion with contractors. Each guild is going to include 3 new cards. Now, I don't want to give away every detail of this game, so I've kept a few of them face down, but I did want to give you an idea of what each guild added to the game. And we won't go over every single one. The iconography, if you're familiar with it, is pretty easy to follow, but a few of these guilds do bring in some new resources that I wanted to talk about. The first one here is our Jewelers Guild. So if you choose to play with the Jewelers Guild, during game setup, you will simply take the diamonds that are associated with this guild and add them to the building material supply. If at any time you land on the section of the market that influences this guild, you can see here that you can pay 1 money in order to get 1 diamond. Or your other option is 3 money for 2 diamond. So what do these diamonds do? Well, they're basically a wild resource in the game. For instance, to build a cathedral, if you needed 3 bricks and 1 wood, you could instead use 3 diamonds. The artisans are going to allow us to activate workshop tiles. You may have the option to activate one of your workshop tiles, or maybe even that of an opponent. Now, the foreman here does come with a little foreman meeple, so let me tell you what the foreman does. If you choose to play with the foreman guild, this does have a little bit of setup required. During setup, you're actually going to place the foreman meeple under the cathedral tower that is furthest to the left. When you are able to take one of these actions, you're going to move the foreman, and it always moves from left to right. So for the options on this card, the top portion tells us that we can move the foreman 1 or 2 towers and receive as many recognition points as you have banners in that tower. tower. And the other option on this foreman's card says to move it 1 or 2 towers and receive as many rubles as you have banners in this tower. We also are going to be introduced to the Lawyers Guild. This Lawyers Guild is going to allow us to get those permits that we need to pay to put contractors in different cities. You can also see here is the Brickmakers Guild, and the Brickmakers Guild does come with some additional components. So during setup, if you use the Brickmakers Guild, you're going to take all of these reinforcement tiles and place them face up next to the market board. When a reinforcement tile is acquired, you can use it at any time during your turn, but you can only use 1 reinforcement tile per turn. Once you've used a reinforcement tile, it's returned to the box. We can see here, we can acquire reinforcement tiles by paying 2 brick. Next up, we are going to have our Contractors Guild. This contractor is going to allow you to obtain resources based on the specialist die, which is the black die, or it's going to allow you to obtain benefits based on where your contractors are on the board. So for instance, this bottom option here is telling us that we can obtain as many permits as we have contractors on the Moscow map board. Next up, we have the Wholesalers Guild, and this guild is going to allow us to carry out more actions in the market every time we acquire resources. So for instance, the top option here says that we can pay 1 ruble and carry out any market action once. Next up is our Managers Guild. Managers give you greater flexibility when acquiring and using basic construction materials for the cathedral. So these ones are pretty basic, and we can see here that we can trade in a gold to get 3 more money. Now, this here is our Master Builders Guild, and I love what the Red Cathedral expansion has done with this particular guild. So if you play with this guild, during setup, you're going to take all these cathedral cards, you're going to take all of the levels, and you're going to shuffle them together. And you're basically going to create a deck, and you can put that deck over by the resource area. So if you're playing with the Master Builders Guild, let's take a look at how this top section works. It says that we can pay 2 rubles to draw 1 card from the cathedral deck and obtain 2 materials of our choice from the requirements on the card. So for this particular card, the resources that I could choose from are brick, wood, and gold. And our last guild here is quite unique as it comes with its very own deck of cards. Now, most of the cards in this deck are going to give us benefits such as recognition points or the option to earn additional prestige points based on objectives on the cards. So during setup, you'll take these cards and shuffle them and place a deck face down near the guild. Let's take a look at the top option here. It says that we can pay 2 rubles to draw 3 contractor cards. We're allowed to look at all 3, but we can only keep 1 of them. So this first one here says that we can return 2 bricks to the supply to gain 2 prestige. We can return 2 wood to the supply or 2 stone. So depending on what we have in inventory, this is a quick way to get 2 prestige. We'll go ahead and select 1 and put the remainders on the bottom of the deck. And that's a look at the 10 new guilds included in Red Cathedral's Contractors. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me at the table. Of course, with these videos, I want to try to give you as much information as I can so you can have a better idea if this Red Cathedral expansion called Contractors is a good fit for your gaming table. Our family really enjoyed playing this, and to be honest, I feel like I'm a little biased because I really love the base game of Red Cathedral so much. I wasn't really surprised to find that the expansion, I enjoyed it just as much, and I absolutely love the solo elements that they added in so that I can still get this to the table solo and enjoy the expansion content. I will definitely say that the solo AI for Red Cathedral is right up my alley because it is low maintenance. I do not like a high maintenance AI, and it really is just moving the dice and of course taking that singular action on behalf of your AI. Now, in my opinion, the Red Cathedral base game in and of itself offers so much replayability and versatility, but this expansion takes it to a whole new level, especially with the introduction of 10 additional guilds. Some of them even coming with additional components to just elevate and change gameplay that much more. This is a game I really feel has so much value, especially for the dollar price you get it at. The replayability and versatility kind of blows my mind, the way that they've designed the game. Now, of course, I've talked about in my other review video just for the base game that there is some setup involved. But to me, the trade-off is good because of the setup of the game. That's what allows for so much replayability and versatility, and it always feels fresh and new every time I get it to my table. Well, as always, thank you so much for joining me, and I would love to have you give this video a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this expansion, and if it's a game that you're interested in, or maybe you've had a chance to try out, please comment below and let me know. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you later.
Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes.